Everyone. We're just about ready to begin, so just wanted to welcome you all this afternoon. We'll get started in a couple of minutes, so if you just would like to just hang on just for a moment, and I'll finish getting things ready, and we'll get started. All right. While we wait for everybody to join us, we might have some people still trying to log in. But before we get started, just want to do a little housekeeping. So down in the bottom left-hand corner, you will see a chat box. If you're having issues or questions, that would be where you can send that information in to me, and I will try and answer those as we go along. Or at the end of the presentation, I do have some time reserved to answer those questions. So if you do have some questions, feel free to send them in, and I'll remind you at the end too. So it's now 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I hope everybody is getting ready for Thanksgiving on Thursday. We do appreciate you taking the time to come and travel with us on a little virtual tour of Scandinavia for next year. And so let's go ahead and get started. My name is Amanda Hancock, and I've been with Brekke Tours for about 10 years now. So if you do have any questions or anything that I don't answer for you today, please feel free to give us a call, and you can see our phone number, email, and website there on that page, and a picture of me holding a king crab from earlier this year. So in case you aren't really familiar with Brekke Tours, I just wanted to give you a really quick overview of who we are and what it is that we do. So Brekke Tours was founded in 1956 when Arne Brekke was, as a student from Norway, he worked his way through graduate school in America by conducting summer tours to Europe. We are a family-owned business and we're located in Grand Forks, North Dakota. We offer a wide variety of products and services such as our own escorted tours, independent travel packages, customized tours for individuals, families, and groups, as well as heritage travel and cruises. Now, our goal here at Brekke Tours is simple. We want to strengthen the cultural and ethnic ties between North America and Scandinavia by creating meaningful travel experiences. So how do we do that? And why? Why should you visit Scandinavia? Well, there are many reasons, but I've summed up a few here. First is the natural beauty and phenomena of Scandinavia. The glaciers, fjords, mountains, forests, the midnight sun, the northern lights. You can find all of those in Scandinavia. And second, Scandinavia has a really rich history filled with Vikings, kings and queens, wars, great wealth, hardships, and so much more. And the culture of Scandinavia is unique, yet it's distinct at the same time. They do have some similarities between the different countries, but each has their own twist, I guess you'd call it. Nature, family, education, and hard work are all highly valued by the folks living in Scandinavia. Now, most Scandinavians speak very good English, which makes it an easy place to get around on your own. And speaking of which, public transportation in Scandinavia is very good. So with buses, trains, and low-cost flights to choose from, it's easy to get from point A to point B. And of course, the food. You have fresh seafood, freshly baked breads, fresh fruit. I'm not sure if you notice a theme there, but all of these foods can be found throughout Scandinavia. And finally, Scandinavia is relatively a safe destination. In fact, you may see babies sleeping in their strollers outside of shops and restaurants. Now, when it comes to start time to planning your trip, one of the first considerations is if you should travel on an escorted tour with a group, independently, or book a cruise. Now, all provide different experiences, so I've put together some pros and cons to each that you may want to take into account when making your decision. So probably we'll start with the escorted tours. Probably the number one reason to join an escorted tour is that it's a worry-free vacation. You can just sit back and relax, and someone else does all the driving and the luggage handling. Our escorted tours include transportation, first-class hotels, most meals, an array of activities and experiences, along with the services of a knowledgeable and professional guide that enhances and enriches your travel experience by providing cultural information about the country and the sites that you're visiting. And they also can handle all those little trivial details like, oh, you lost your luggage, and so they can help you with those sort of things. An escorted tour is perfect for the seasoned traveler as well as those that are traveling outside their home state or home country for the first time. You'll also get to take advantage of group discounts, thus make so you get a little bit more for your travel budget. You enjoy a journey with group members that share similar interests, and you can make new friends. Tour itineraries are developed based on the experience and careful planning of a knowledgeable tour operator. So we spend a lot of time and research putting these itineraries together. Now, traveling independently allows you the freedom to travel at your own pace and choose the experiences that you want to include. Independent travel is suitable for those who are comfortable traveling alone, may have limited time, or wish to stay in one place and explore the surrounding area. And as I said, public transportation is readily available in Scandinavia. However, if you need flexibility or wish to enjoy the countryside, renting a car is an excellent option. And although independent package may appear to be less expensive, once you start adding food, transfers, and activities, it can actually be more expensive than an escorted tour. Now, cruises have the advantage of being suitable for almost anybody. As a floating hotel, you wake up at a new location each day and only have to unpack once. You can also plan exciting excursions while in various ports of call. But of course, one drawback to cruising is that the amount of time that you're in a certain port is limited, and the amount of people all visiting the same area at one time, it can be a little overwhelming. Now we're going to kind of start off with our escorted tours first. So if you're looking for a tour for a particular time period, then this list might be able to help you narrow your search down. Now, obviously, June and July are the most popular months to travel in Norway and Scandinavia. So we have 5 departures in June and 8 departures in July, and then one in August and September. No matter which escorted tour you decide to join, there are some key points that are included in all of our escorted tours. The first of which, you're getting a good value for your travel budget. Now, Scandinavia, I'm not going to lie, it can be expensive. So if you take advantage of these group discounts, you might actually feel that you receive more than what you have actually paid for. So most of our tours do involve a little bit of walking each day. And with that being said, if you do have mobility issues, I would recommend please calling our office and talking to one of our agents. We can kind of talk to you and ease your concerns and make recommendations suitable for your activity level. Now, we do allow quite a bit of free time in larger cities such as Oslo, Bergen, Trondheim, Stavanger, Stockholm, and Copenhagen. Usually, upon arrival, we'll have a sightseeing tour just to give you kind of an orientation of the city, and then the rest of your day will be free. So you usually have at least an afternoon free in each of these cities. We do usually start around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and we try to have you to the hotel no later than 6 or 7. So that also will give you some free time, especially during the summer, during the midnight sun regions. You can get out and do a little exploring on your own. We also offer luggage handling at most hotels. We only have just one or two hotels, I'm sorry, that don't offer luggage handling, but the rest of them do. And our tour director will meet you at the arriving airport and will stay with you until you depart the tour. So you have somebody that's there as soon as almost as soon as you step down into Scandinavia. You'll also notice that most of your meals are included in the itinerary. We also try to include special meals such as a dinner at a local farm or a unique location. And for your comfort, all of our tours are on a first-class touring coach. They have large windows, reclining seats, footrests, and even bathrooms on board. So you can just sit back and relax while our really wonderful bus drivers, I can't give it up enough for our bus drivers, chauffeur you around in style. If you've ever been to Norway and been on one of those huge buses, you really want a good bus driver, and we have some really good ones. So, and finally, all of our tours can be customized with a pre or post tour extension within Scandinavia or beyond. So you do have the ability to add a day or even add a country if you want to. Now, I've separated out, included on most escorted tours, because there's one tour that we have this year that doesn't include these things, and that is Land of the Midnight Sun. So we'll talk about that tour in a little bit, but with the exception of this tour, all of the rest of our tours will visit a stave church. Norway is obviously known for its stave churches, and so all of our tours do include a visit to a stave church. You will get to enjoy a sightseeing tour in Oslo and Bergen and a ride on the Plum Railway. All right. So who will I be traveling with? That's the question that we get a lot of. Um, while on tour, you'll meet a variety of people, but in general, these folks are from the US and Canada. They'll have ethnic ties to Scandinavia. Most of them are retired and they enjoy learning new things and seeking out new experiences. Now, some of the interests commonly found among our tour participants include history, embroidery, folk music, dancing, singing, hiking, and other outdoor activities. So this kind of just gives you a general idea of who you might see on tour with you. And who will be my tour guide? So we have a picture of Jean, our wonderful tour guide. She does our Song Vos Valdres Heritage Tour every year. But most of our tour directors, they have worked with us for many years, and we try to use the same ones for the same tours so that you really get a good a guide that knows the tour forwards and backwards. So, our tour directors, of course, will meet you at the arriving airport. They'll stay with you throughout the tour, and our tour directors only give information out in English. Now, sometimes they'll throw a little Norwegian or something like that in, but it's just mainly for educational purposes. So sometimes we like to teach people, some fun little phrases and things that they can use. So we do have local guides as well, and those will be step-on guides that join the tour just for a few hours, and they'll provide specific information about a particular site that you're seeing or a city such as Oslo or Bergen or Trondheim. So just to give you kind of an idea of what to expect when traveling with us, just put together this short list. Now, usually you'll depart around 8:30, 9 a.m. from your hotel. You'll arrive at your next hotel sometime before dinner. There are short walks throughout the day for activities, shopping, food, and restrooms. And your tour director will provide you with information while on the bus. So if you're traveling to someplace, they'll give you kind of, I guess, an introduction into what you're going to be seeing and doing. There will be some time given for independent explorations or relaxation. And of course, the tour director will advise the group of the departure time for the next day. So usually before you get off the bus, your tour director will tell you that, okay, we need to leave by, such and such time in the morning so that you'll know when to be ready. Now, there are some other factors that you might want to take into consideration when you're trying to decide on a tour. Some of them, we kind of covered the travel dates already. Like I said, June and July offer most options. The length of the tour also might be a factor, how much time you can get away from home. So we have tours that range from 9 to 14 days. And then another factor would be what destinations are included. Do you want to see just Norway? Do you want to see Norway and Sweden? Or do you want to see Norway, Sweden, and Denmark? So that might help narrow down which tour would be of interest to you. Also, areas of interest or heritage. Are you traveling to Scandinavia for the first time? Are you going to bring children or grandchildren along? How much do you want to see and do while you're there? And that kind of leads into included activities and experiences. So just to give a quick overview of the destinations that most people are looking for whenever they are looking for a tour. So we have Multiple countries. So Sweden and Norway both are covered on our Taste of Sweden and Norway tour. Captivating Scandinavia includes Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. If you're looking for something that visits the Lofoten Islands in Norway, you'd want to pick Land of the Midnight Sun. For Trondheim, we have Spectacular Norway or Norway Scenic and Historic. And then the others are there on the right. So if you're looking for a specific area, this list might give you some ideas of what tours you should be looking at. And again, areas of interest. So if you're a first-time traveler, some of our really good general tours of Norway would be Best of Norway, Spectacular Norway, and Splendor of Norway. If you've been to Norway before and maybe want to visit some new destinations or some areas that you haven't visited, Majestic Norway covers the southern coast of Norway, while the Land of the Midnight Sun covers north from Trondheim up to Tromsø. And if you're traveling with children or grandchildren, you may want to consider Norway's Family Adventure. And if you really just want to see as much as you can in the amount of time that you're there, captivating, taste, and scenic and historic would be my three recommendations. Now, we did have somebody ask what was my favorite tour. It's really hard to answer. Um, Probably my favorite tour of Norway would be scenic and historic, just because it covers just the most area of Norway. And so you've got Oslo, Bergen, the fjord country, Rhodos, which is really famous from Disney's Frozen. That's where they based the scenery and things like that. They based it on Rhodos. And then also you'll get to visit Lillehammer and Geiranger area and Trondheim. So it kind of covers a good chunk of Norway. Another really good one that I like is Captivating, and that's because it does include a visit to Denmark as well as Sweden. So it's a good general tour of Norway, but it also includes those other countries as well. So I am going to talk just a little bit about some of our feature tours for 2018. So I've picked 5 here that we'll go over, and so we'll take like a little visual journey for each one of these tours, starting with Taste of Sweden and Norway. So this tour departs on June 21st, and it's a 10-day tour. We're going to start off in Stockholm. You'll spend 3 nights in Sweden before crossing the border into Norway. You'll travel through Oslo, Flum, and Bergen in 5 days. So on day 1, you'll depart the U.S. on your flight to Sweden, and then you'll arrive on day 2 where your guide will meet you and escort you to your hotel, and the rest of your day is free. Now on day 3, we'll start with a city sightseeing tour featuring Stockholm City Hall. And as you can see here in the picture, this is a golden room inside the City Hall. It's quite spectacular. You'll learn more about Sweden's most famous buildings and one of the capital's most visited tourist attractions. It's famous for its grand ceremonial halls and unique pieces of art. It's also the venue for the Nobel Prize banquet each year. It's held on December 10th, so quite a grand place to hold a banquet. Another stop on the tour will be the Vasa Ship Museum. This is home to the world's only preserved 17th century warship. The Vasa Ship Museum offers a look into the ship's construction, sinking, and resurrection. Next, your afternoon is free, so I would recommend taking a stroll around the old town of Stockholm. It's got a bunch of fun little shops and things that you can visit. Or if you have a bit of a sweet tooth, you might want to check out the Swedish tradition of fika, or afternoon coffee break. It's often served with pastries or sandwiches. Fika offers one a chance to slow down and appreciate the good things in life. So on day 4, we'll depart Stockholm and drive to Dalarna. Now, this is a popular vacation destination from folks from southern Sweden, and it's known for its good fishing and deep forests. In Uppsala, we'll tour the famous cathedral, which dates back to the 13th century, and at a height of 389 feet, it's the tallest church in the Nordic countries. So you can see a nice little picture of it there. It's quite tall. We'll continue on to Sundborn, which is the home of Carl Larsson, one of Sweden's most beloved artists. He considered his finest work to be Midwinter Sacrifice, which you can see here. It's a large painting now displayed inside the Swedish National Museum of Fine Arts. Now your hotel tonight will be the First Hotel Talberg. It's perched up high with a fantastic view over Lake Siljan, and the hotel offers its guests a chance to relax and unwind in a peaceful setting. It's a nice little place to spend the night. Now the next morning, we'll get to see where the Dala horses are made with a visit to the Dala Horse Factory. Now, people have been carving wooden horses as toys and decorative items for hundreds of years, but it was in the early 1800s that the Dala horse began to take its classic shape, with bright colors and painted flowers. In 1928, the Olsen brothers took out a loan to buy a saw and opened up a small factory to make Dala horses. The risk paid off, and the descendants of the Olsen brothers are still making Dala horses in Nunsnas nearly a century later. So after the tour, we'll continue on to Oslo, driving through the Värmland province en route. Tonight, we'll stay in the heart of Oslo at the Grand Hotel. Day 6 will start off with a tour of Oslo featuring Vigeland Park, which is famous for its many granite sculptures, and the Viking Ship Museum. Now, the Viking Ship Museum is home to the world's best preserved Viking ships and finds from Viking tombs around the Oslo fjord. So like I said before, once your city tour is done, the rest of your day is free. And so you might want to explore some sites on your own around Oslo. On day 7, we'll leave Oslo behind and drive through the Valdres Valley to Borgund Stave Church. The church was built around 1180 and is dedicated to the Apostle Andrew. The church is exceptionally well preserved and is one of the most distinctive stave churches in Norway. Some of the finest features are the lavishly carved portals and the roof carving of dragon heads. Then we'll drive up the snow road to Stegastein for a chance to float above the fjord and the village below. So the platform juts out from the mountain over 2,000 feet above the fjord and is made from laminated wood and steel. And as you can see, all that's holding you back is this little piece of very strong glass. You'll then travel down the mountainside to Flum, located at the end of the Ireland Fjord, and overnight at the Fredheim Hotel. The next morning, you'll want to have your camera ready because we're going to set off on the Norway in a nutshell experience. And you'll start off with a cruise on the Ireland Fjord and Norway Fjord. And then we'll take a ride on the famous Flum Railway, which is ranked as one of the top 20 train rides in Europe. So within 13 miles, you'll ascend from sea level to 2,800 feet above. In Myrdal, you'll change to the Oslo-Bergen Railway and continue to Voss, where you'll meet your bus and continue on to Bergen. So hopefully when you arrive in Bergen, it looks like this, all pretty and sunshiny and not like this. So on average, there are 231 days of precipitation in Bergen per year. So you might want to bring an umbrella. And just remember, as Norwegians say, there is no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. On your final day in Norway, this will be your last full day in Norway, you'll enjoy a tour of Trollhagen, which is the home of Norway's famous composer Edvard Grieg, and you'll learn about his family and music as you tour his family home of 22 years. Next, you'll walk through the historic Hanseatic Wharf and hear the stories of the people that used to live and work in the wooden buildings lining the streets. Your afternoon here is free as well. You might want to sample the wares at the fish market or ride the funicular to the top of Mount Floyen for a view of Bergen. So there are 7 mountains around Bergen, so you can take a cable car ride basically up to the top and for a really nice view of the city below. So highlights of Taste of Sweden and Norway. You get to visit both countries. You'll also have sightseeing tours in Stockholm, Oslo, and Bergen. You'll get to experience the fjord country of Norway, visit the Dala Horse Center, and somebody had asked if that was symbolic. A lot of times now, Sweden will use the Dala Horse as gifts for diplomats and figureheads for companies and things like that. So it's kind of the symbol of Sweden, I guess you could say now. And so I have one actually in my house. So they're really cute. I enjoy mine. So the price of this tour with airfare from Minneapolis is $44.95 per person. If you are looking at booking air on your own, say that you have miles or something like that, the land only price is $35.95. And then if you're traveling as a single, the single supplement is $7.75. And we have the tour pricing set up the same way for every tour. So I probably won't go into a lot of detail for the rest of the tours, but I did want to explain just on this first one. So our next tour is Norway's Family Adventure. Now this tour is designed for the young and the young at heart. So it's a multi-generational travel has really expanded in the last few years. So this tour was created as a way to introduce the next generation to Norway and their Norwegian heritage. You'll also have the opportunity to travel with a Norwegian family as your guide Kari will be bringing 3 children and her husband along for the ride. So starting in Oslo, you'll meet Kari and her family, and then they'll show you their homeland. There's a focus on this tour with kid-friendly activities, and it's one that we really think that the whole family can enjoy. So after you arrive at the Oslo airport, here is Kari with her 3 children, and then Kari and her husband. So they will meet you and transfer you to the Scandic Victoria Hotel in Oslo. So there's a picture of the Scandic Victoria. The rest of your day upon arrival is free, so you might want to take a little walk around the harbor. On day 3, we'll begin with a tour of Vigeland Sculpture Park and a visit to Holmenkollen ski jump. And then again, the rest of your day is free to spend with your family. The next morning, we'll depart Oslo and we'll drive to Lillehammer for a visit to the 1994 Winter Olympic sites. So you can ride here. You can ride the ski lift, or if you're like my husband, and just want to take a silly picture, you can do that as well. We're going to continue on to Oya for an overnight at the Hunderfossen Hotel and Resort. Now the next day, which is July the 4th, by the way, we're going to spend the entire day at the Hunderfossen Family Park. So it's an amusement park, but it has the Norwegian twist. As you can see, it's guarded by a huge troll, and we have some Norwegian designs in there. So it should be a really fun day, and it's a fun way to spend July 4th with your family. Now, the next day, we will depart and drive through the Valdres Valley to Fagernes for a tour of the Valdres Folk Museum. Now, this folk museum is really known for their collection of bunads, which is the traditional costume of Norway. So we'll continue on to Gol for the overnight at the family-friendly Storfjell Hotel. So here's just a quick picture of the Storfjell Hotel. You can see it's pretty much in the middle of nowhere. So it's great for hiking and exploring. But they also have a really nice swimming pool, putt-putt course, and an arcade if it's something that you just want to stay inside that afternoon. On day 7, we'll depart Gol and travel through the Hemsedal Valley for a tour of the Borgundstave Church. And then we'll drive also the snow road to Stegastein. So we'll have a chance. As you can see, this is a little bit better picture. It gives you the laminated wood and steel. As you can see, it's quite a long platform that peeks out over the fjord. So at the end of the day, we'll arrive at Flum and we'll overnight at the Fredheim Hotel. On day 8, we'll begin with an exciting ride on the Flum Railway to Voss. And then in the afternoon, we'll board a ferry for a cruise to Underdal. So Underdal is not only home to Norway's smallest stave church, the Underdal Stave Church, but it also has about 80 people living there and nearly 500 goats. Underdal is known for its brown goat cheese, and we'll learn more about the tradition of cheese making and farming in the mountains from our local guide. Afterward, we'll be able to sample a bit and enjoy dinner before we return to Flum for overnight. Now, day 9, we're going to kick it off with a drive to Voss, where we will begin a 3-hour family rafting adventure. So this 3-hour journey will take us along the Vosso River to Evanger Lake, where we'll enjoy some well-deserved refreshments. After the tour, we'll continue on to Bergen and we'll enjoy a good night's rest at the Clarion Admiral Hotel. Now, your last full day in Bergen will begin with a tour of the Hanseatic Wharf, followed by a ride on the funicular, and this is the funicular here, for a grand view of Bergen from up high. So highlights, oh, I see some of this information is incorrect. I do apologize about that. We're going to travel with the Norwegian family. These were on here for last year. I'm sorry, I should have taken those off. We did run this tour last year, but we have made some changes and hopefully some improvements. So instead of visiting the Bear Park and the Nature Park, we're going to visit Hunderfossen. So we are still going to ride the Flum Railway and view Stegastein. We're going to cruise Arlen Fjord, have a family rafting adventure, and of course visit the Borgen Stave Church. So the pricing for this tour is $45.95, and we do have rates for children as well. So for children 5 to 11, the price is $34.95, which also includes airfare. And then the child price for 2 to 4 years is $25.95, also with airfare. Now, our next tour is a great tour for those that may have been to Norway before or those with ancestral roots in the Telemark or Hardanger regions. So, and as you can see why, so we're going to start off in Oslo and we'll travel through Rjukan, which is in the Telemark region, and then down to Kristiansand and over to Stavanger. And then we'll continue up to Loftus, which is in the Hardanger region, and continue around the Norway in the Nutshell region into Bergen. So after 2 nights in Oslo, we'll depart for Telemark, and this area of Norway is rich in cultural traditions as well as home to many writers and artists. Now our first stop is Hedal Stave Church. This church was built in 1200 and is a masterwork of wood. It is the largest of 28 stave churches in Norway and is still in use today, which is quite impressive. Now in Rjukan, we'll visit the Vimwerk Power Station, which was the center of one of the most important acts of sabotage committed during the Second World War, when Norwegian saboteurs prevented the Germans from developing a nuclear bomb from the heavy water that was produced there. So it's quite an interesting story. We'll also visit the capital of southern Norway, which is Kristiansand. It's long been a favorite summer holiday spot amongst Norwegians. The sea and the surrounding fjords are great for recreational activities like fishing and sailing. On our way to Stavanger, we'll savor a traditional meal in a former cheese dairy. You'll also find Norwegian-produced handmade candles along with local art and interior goods here. So if you want to pick up a little something for back home, this would be the place to do it. As we continue into the Hardanger region, we'll pay a visit to a rose mauling artist and learn a little bit more about her craft before we settle into the Ullensvang Hotel for 2 nights. And here we will be staying in one of these lovely fjord view rooms. So that's a little treat that we enjoy. So as we depart the Hardanger region, we're going to travel to Bergen across the Hardanger Bridge, which was completed in 2013. The main span is one of the longest suspension bridge spans in the world. It is also the longest tunnel-to-tunnel suspension bridge in the world. So it's got a couple of longest and I guess, distinctions for it. So we're also going to enjoy a ride on the Flam Railway, as well as taking a cruise on the Nærøyfjord and the Arlefjord. And we will continue to Os, which is south of Bergen. And here we will stay at the Solstrand Hotel, which is, as you can see from the picture, quite lovely. The next day, we'll take a little excursion into Bergen, and we'll tour Trollhagen again, which is the home of Edvard Grieg, and the Hanseatic Wharf as well. So highlights of Majestic Norway include sightseeing in Oslo, Stavanger, and Bergen. We're going to tour the Hidalstave Church, visit the Norwegian Industrial Museum. We're going to have several nights at fjordside hotels. We're going to have an excursion to the Hardanger region and the Norway in a nutshell experience. And for something a little fun, we're going to have dinner in a former cheese dairy. So the price for this tour is $49.95 per person. And we will, of course, begin in Oslo and in Bergen. So, all right. The next tour, we're going to shake things up a little bit and actually travel to all 3 countries on this tour. Captivating Scandinavia departs on July 11th. This 14-day adventure is going to start in Bergen, which is a little different. We're going to continue through the fjord country to Flum, down to Oslo, and then we're going to cruise from Oslo to Copenhagen and then travel on into Sweden from there. So as you depart, you'll depart, of course, for Norway on day 1 with arrival into Bergen on day 2. So you'll meet your guide and bus at the airport, then transfer to the Clarion Admiral Hotel, where the rest of your day is free. Now, I would suggest getting outdoors in order to reset your body internal clock to the new time zone. So you might want to do that by visiting the fish market, exploring Håkons Hall, or simply relaxing in one of the restaurants near the wharf. And those are all good ways to spend the afternoon. On day 3, we're going to also have a sightseeing tour, as we've done with our past tours. So we will visit Trollhagen and the Hanseatic Wharf, which was once a main hub for trade between Norway and the continent, going back nearly 1,000 years. So after the tour, you'll again have some free time, and so you may want to explore Bergen on your own. And I've also included a picture of our lovely Clarion Admiral Hotel here, so you can see it's right on the water. Now, on day 4, we're going to depart Bergen and drive to Voss, where we'll board the train for a trip on the Flum Railway down to Flum. We'll then cruise to Ireland and Nærøyfjord to Gudvangen, and then we will overnight at the Fredheim Hotel. Now, the next day, we'll depart for Oslo, and we'll stop along the way at Stegestein and Borgundstave Church. Day 6 begins with a sightseeing tour of Oslo, featuring the Vigeland Sculpture Park and the Viking Ship Museum, and the rest of your day is free. Now, during your free time in Oslo, you may want to explore Akershus Castle, which dates back to 1299, which was a medieval castle and royal residence which was developed into a fortress in 1592, after which it was rebuilt into a Renaissance castle in 1637 to 1648. It includes several magnificent halls, the castle church, the royal mausoleum, models of the castle, the government's reception rooms, and banquet halls. So you may also want to check out the nearby Resistance Museum, which documents Norway's domestic World War II history from the years of 1940 to 1945. The exhibitions they've recreated the 5 years of occupation through pictures, documents, posters, objects, models, original copies of newspapers, and recordings. So if you get a chance to check that museum out, it really is worth the trip. And other sites worth a visit include Oslo Parliament, the Opera House, National Museum of Art, and of course Oslo City Hall. Now, on day 7, you'll have a free day in Oslo, so you may want to go check out some of those sites that you didn't get to the day before. And then in the afternoon, we'll transfer you to the pier for an overnight cruise to Copenhagen. So you'll relax and enjoy dinner on board, and you'll let the ship rock you to sleep as you sail on towards Copenhagen. Next morning, you'll wake up and you'll disembark, where you will meet your tour guide for the city tour, and you'll have a quick little tour about Copenhagen, featuring its colorful history, which dates back more than 6,000 years ago. The first written record regarding Copenhagen dates back to 1043. Now, the reigning monarch, Queen Marguerite, can trace her ancestry back to the Viking Age, which makes Denmark the world's oldest kingdom. So some of the sites that you'll see on tour is, of course, the Little Mermaid and the Nyhavn. So the rest of your day is free, so you may want to check out Stroget, which is the world's longest shopping street. On day 9, we'll depart Copenhagen and drive to Hillerød for a tour of Frederiksborg Castle. Now, this was built as a royal residence for King Christian IV. The castle is now a museum of national history. So it's got quite a few, there's artwork in there, furniture, tapestries, that sort of thing. So, and if that's really not your thing, then you might want to check out the grounds that the castle is on, as the gardens are quite spectacular. So just to give you kind of a glimpse of what you'll see inside the castle. And then tonight you'll rest your head at the lovely Tofteholm Manor in Lågen. Now, for more than 600 years, travelers have found lodgings for the night, meals, harmony, and time for thought here. Gustav Vasa, Wilhelm Moorburg, and Bruno Mattsson are just a few of the guests who have enjoyed food and hospitality over the years at Tofteholm. The next day, we'll head to Costa Boda, which is in the Kingdom of Crystal. The Kingdom of Crystal contains 15 glassworks dating back to the 18th century. Now, the glassworks have become part of the culture of Sweden, and examples can be found in many Swedish homes, recognized by a small sticker at the bottom with the name. Next, we'll travel to Gothenburg, where we will stay for 2 nights. You'll learn about the history of this port city on a sightseeing tour. Actually, it's a cruise, so it's a sightseeing cruise through the Dutch-inspired canals on day 11. And after the tour, your day is free to visit the Volvo Museum, the Fish Church, or the Gothenburg Museum of Art. Day 12 takes us through the Swedish countryside as we travel from Gothenburg to Stockholm. And along the way, your tour director will be there to have some music playing and maybe give you some language lessons and some commentary about what you're seeing. So you'll arrive in Stockholm, and here's where the tour will end on day 14. But before you say goodbye, we'll visit the Vasa Ship Museum, City Hall, and other places of interest on a half-day sightseeing tour. So highlights of Captivating Scandinavia. Of course, you'll get to experience 3 countries in one tour. You'll enjoy an overnight cruise from Oslo to Copenhagen and a tour of Frederiksborg Castle. You'll get to have some free time in Gothenburg to pick and choose what you want to see. And you'll have a sightseeing tour in Stockholm, where we'll enjoy a visit to the Vasa Ship Museum. Now, the tour price for Captivating Scandinavia is $56.95 per person, which again includes airfare from Minneapolis, St. Paul. Now, my last tour that I'm featuring on today's presentation is Land of the Midnight Sun. And this is one of our older tours that's making a comeback for 2018. It starts in Trondheim, and you'll actually travel north above the Arctic Circle to the Lofoten Islands and beyond. So as you can see, we're going to start in Trondheim and continue up north, and the tour will end in Tromsø. You'll go north of the Arctic Circle, and while you're learning about history, learning about northern Norway's rich history, including German occupation of Norway during World War II. So we do have some sites that we will include that will feature this activity. So you'll begin your Norwegian adventure in Trondheim, and you'll spend 2 nights here. You'll begin day 3 with a sightseeing tour, which includes a visit to the Nidaros Cathedral, one of the most splendid cathedrals in Scandinavia. Your afternoon is free to explore on your own. And then the next day, we're going to drive to Stiklestad, which is the site of the famous Battle of 1030. And this battle is one of the most famous battles in the history of Norway, in which it was the King Olaf II of Norway was killed. Now today, the Stiklestad Church sits on the site of the Battle of Stiklestad, and during the battle, St. Olaf received 3 severe wounds in the knee, in the neck, and the final mortal blow was through the heart. He died leaning against a large stone, and the church building is assumed to have been erected on the exact spot where St. Olaf was killed during that battle, and the stone is supposedly still inside the altar of the church. So after visiting Stiklestad, we'll continue on to Namsos for overnight. The next day, enjoy a drive along the coastal scenery of Helgeland as we drive north to the Norwegian Aqua Center. Here we'll learn about aquaculture in Norway. We'll continue to follow the midnight sun north on day 6 as we travel past the Seven Sisters mountain range en route to Mo i Rana for overnight. Now, day 7 takes us north of the Arctic Circle. It's the boundary of the midnight sun of the Arctic summer and the sunless winters of the north. We'll visit the Arctic Circle Center before continuing on to Saltstraumen, site of the world's strongest maelstrom. On day 8 and 9, you will definitely want to have your camera ready. So we're going to spend a full day just exploring the Lofoten Islands. We're going to head to Bodo, where we'll take a short flight up to Leknes, and then drive to the spectacular Lofoten Islands. We'll have 2 days visiting various sites around the islands, one full day and then a little bit of that first day, including a fishing village of Å, Solvar, and Reen, once selected as the most beautiful village in Norway. And it's really not hard to see why. This is a picture of it here. On day 10, we'll depart the Lofoten Islands and continue north to Narvik for a visit to the World War II Museum and an excursion by cable car in Narvik. On day 11, we'll embark on the last portion of our journey north as we head to Tromsø. But before we arrive, we'll stop for a visit to the North Norway Boat Museum and the Polar Park, which is the northernmost wildlife park in the world. And if you're brave enough, you can actually step into the wolf sanctuary and get a wolf kiss. Now tonight, on Midsummer's Eve, we'll arrive into Tromsø, known as the Paris of the North, and it's famous for being a Northern Lights hotspot. Of course, we're there during the summer, so we won't see any Northern Lights, but we can enjoy the midnight sun definitely. Now, your last full day in Norway begins with a sightseeing tour of Tromsø, and as you can see from the skyline, that it's dominated by the Arctic Cathedral, which was built in 1965 and inspired by Arctic nature. So we'll visit the Arctic Cathedral and then the Polar Museum, which tells the exciting story of risky Arctic trapping and courageous polar expeditions. Now, highlights of the Land of the Midnight Sun. This is really a unique tour that gives you the opportunity to explore a few places that outsiders get to travel. So in addition to the fantastic setting of the Lofoten Islands, you'll also get to see the Nidaros Cathedral in Trondheim, Stiklestad, and the Arctic Cathedral in Tromsø. You'll also learn more about the German occupation of World War II, occupation of Norway during World War II throughout this tour. So the price for this tour is $57.95, which also includes airfare from Minneapolis to St. Paul. Now, with any of our tours, we do offer extensions that you can choose to add. So you can add a completely separate country, like visiting Iceland, or if you want to add a visit to the Faroe Islands, Russia, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, and more. So if you're thinking about independent travel, we do offer a variety of independent travel options, including fjord tours, self-drive tours, adventure tours, and winter packages. Our independent travel options can be found online, or if you prefer to have a customized itinerary plan just for you, all you have to do is contact our office. So there are some things to consider when, trying to decide if if you should travel independently or not. One of the first considerations is how to get from point A to point B. Now, traveling on your own means that you will have to deal with the unexpected as well. And if this is something you wish to avoid, you may want to choose an alternative travel option. Now, sticking with your budget is another factor when planning your independent vacation. Costs can quickly balloon out of control if you aren't careful. And planning a large itinerary can be difficult, especially if you're unfamiliar with the locations and the different options. And it's here that we can really help. So we do have some popular independent packages. The first one would be, of course, the Norway in a nutshell. It can be done as a 3 or 6 day package. The Nordic Delight, which includes visits to the Scandinavian capitals of Oslo, Copenhagen, and Stockholm. You can also add extensions to Helsinki, St. Petersburg, Russia, or Norway's fjord country. Now, Iceland has really become a frequently requested destination, and one of the best ways to see this is to rent a car and just drive the ring road, which circles the island. And this can be done in as little as 9 days. So there's some other options, but for all of our independent packages, I would suggest that you go online and visit our website. For those that are looking for a trip that's a little bit more tailored to you, we do offer customized tours for individuals, couples, families, and groups. We can include all of the arrangements needed, including drivers, guides, and more. And your tailor-made tour is based on your interest, areas of heritage, budget, and more. So all it takes to get started is just to call or email us, and one of our staff will be happy to assist you. Now, just to wrap things up real quick with cruises, if cruising is your preferred mode of travel, we can also help you with that. So whether you choose to explore the coast of Norway on the world's most beautiful voyage, Hurtigruten, or explore the kingdom of the polar bear, we're happy to help you by providing advice, travel tips, and more. So much like the escorted tours, choosing a cruise can be a daunting task. And to narrow down the field, you may want to review the included destinations, how much time you spend at these locations, the ship size, as well as activities and experiences that are either optional or included. Now, just to give you a couple of examples of cruises that we do offer, Hurtigruten, of course, offers the Norwegian coastal voyage, also known as the world's most beautiful voyage. They also offer cruises to Spitsbergen, Iceland, and Greenland, and beyond. So just to give you a few pictures, if you are looking at a cruise for this year or even into 2019, now is the time to book so that you can take advantage of early booking discounts. Another popular cruise is the Baltic Cruise. It visits Germany, Estonia, Russia, Finland, and Sweden. And it's a great way to get a taste of the Baltic capitals in only 12 days. So usually these cruises are round trip from Copenhagen. For more information about any of these cruises, or if you'd like to explore further options, please just contact our office and we'll be glad to help you out. So question and answer, we finally made it. So I'm going to jump on here to the questions that you guys asked really quick. So Beth, you had asked, on this tour, is there anywhere where one can kayak or ride bikes around? So if you are, okay, you were talking about the family adventure. So yes, any time that we are in Flum, that's a really good place to do some kayaking or to do biking. They have that readily available there, so that would be my recommendation to do that. If it's something that you're on an escorted tour that includes a stop in Flum, and that's something that you really want to do, I would suggest contacting our office and we can work with you on getting that arranged. It might be that we have to substitute, a kayak tour for, a cruise or something like that, but we can certainly work with you on that. And on a group tour, do you have to leave from Minneapolis? Not necessarily. That is where we have the all of our tours departing from. But say you're in Phoenix. Um, of course, it would be silly for you to fly from Phoenix and Minneapolis and over. So we would work with you individually to get airfare from your home city, and that's not a problem. We can do that without any issues. Um, let's see. How many people are generally on an escorted tour? And it can vary. Normally we say around 30, and I would say probably for our more popular tours, Spectacular Norway and Best of Norway, um, it can be up towards 40. But some of our more out of the way places, you're looking at maybe 20 people. So, which really isn't a lot when you think about it. And okay, Beth, hopefully I answered your questions about the group tour. You don't all have to leave from Minneapolis, and you could just meet up. A lot of times our flights will fly into Keflavik Airport, which is in Iceland, because we fly on Iceland Air. So everybody kind of filters through Iceland, and then they might be on the same flight from Reykjavik to wherever it is you're flying to in Scandinavia, be it Oslo or Bergen, those places like that. So hopefully I answered those questions. If you do have any more questions, please feel free to send them in that chat box. I will open that back up in just a minute. I'm going to try to get some frequently asked questions answered. So, of course, people always ask, what clothing should I pack? And I would bring clothing that you can layer. So, casual clothing is perfectly acceptable for our escorted tours. You will definitely want to bring good walking shoes, and you may also want to bring a jacket and perhaps a raincoat. Do we have to change planes? Actually, that I just kind of answered that one. We do have a change of planes in Keflavik. Like I said, all of our tours from Minneapolis, they will route through Iceland. So you'll change planes there and then continue on. Where will I meet the tour guide? That's something else that we also get asked quite often. And a lot of times your tour guide will meet you outside the customs area at your arrival airport. So if you're flying into Oslo, your tour guide will meet you in the arrival hall in Oslo. Additional cost. We do include all of your breakfast and most dinners during the trip. Lunches, however, are usually left up to you. You can expect to spend about $5 to $15 for lunch in Norway. However, if you eat a large breakfast and bring a snack with you and eat a decent dinner, you'll find that you really don't need lunch that often. Other expenses are usually of a personal nature, such as laundry, drinks at dinner, taxis. Gratuities for drivers and guides are probably our main thing that would be additional. Do people in Norway and Scandinavia speak English? Yes, they do. Even if you don't speak a word of Norwegian or Swedish or Danish, such as myself, you'll find that you are interacting just fine with everybody over there. We also get asked, when is a good time to travel to Scandinavia? And this one is a hard one to answer. Really, it just kind of depends on you. If you prefer smaller crowds and being outdoors or traveling on a budget, then you may want to look at the spring or fall. This would be more for independent people. If you enjoy winter activities or want to check out the Northern Lights, obviously you would need to go during the winter. If you're planning to travel with a group or want to experience Scandinavia at its warmest, then you would want to travel through June to August. And do I need a visa? Traveling in Scandinavia only requires a passport. If you do, however, plan to extend your trip with a tour of Russia, you will need a visa, which we can help you obtain before traveling. Okay, so we had a couple more questions. Phyllis, how is Stockholm being? Yes. So, Phyllis, you asked if you have been to Stockholm before, you're interested in, okay. Can I skip the Vasa Museum and meet up with relatives in Stockholm? Yes, you may certainly do that, and we could even help you plan, where to meet and things like that. So that's not a problem at all. Beth, you asked how much money should a person bring with them and credit cards acceptable and traveler checks. Ugh. So traveler checks we don't really recommend anymore just because it's really hard to find somebody that will accept them nowadays. Most people in Scandinavia accept credit cards without any problems. I've always taken a credit card with me, never had any issues. Um, and so the only thing you would want to do is make sure that your credit card has one of those chips in it and that you have your 4-digit PIN. So that would be the important thing. How much money to bring? That one's kind of a tough one to answer as well, just because it's kind of a personal thing. If you Usually people will bring enough cash to give tips and things like that. Most of the time, I usually will wait and get money while I'm there. Your tour guide will make sure that you guys have a stop along the way somewhere where you can get money before you really start, you know, setting off away from the major cities. If you normally spend maybe $400 or $500 on souvenirs or something like that, if you want to bring enough cash for that, that's fine. If you want to charge those to your credit card, that's usually fine as well. So if, I would bring enough cash for tips and things like that. And Phyllis, you ask about our tour guides given tips. Yes, we do recommend that tips be given to your tour director, bus driver, and then the local guides. And that information, we have a little handy booklet that we'll send out once you register, and it gives you kind of some guidelines on how much you might expect to give those individuals. Stuart, you asked if I can have kosher meals. Yes, we can certainly send that. A lot of the meals that we include are at the hotels, so we would just send something to them ahead of time, letting them know that you would need something set aside. We haven't had an issue with that in the past, so I don't think it would be an issue. Milk and nut allergies. As a nut allergy person myself, I totally understand. And yes, again, we would just send that information ahead of time into whatever restaurants or wherever we might be having a meal, and we haven't had too many problems with that. So, oh, Phyllis, okay. Yes, you may visit relatives and skip out on the sightseeing tour if you want to in Stockholm. That's not a problem. Ron, you ask if you tip food servers in Norway. Not usually. A lot of times, in the service industry in Norway, they will charge a flat fee on your bill. So you really don't have to tip unless it's somebody that just really went above and beyond. And tips really aren't expected either. So don't feel bad about just, signing the check and leaving and not leaving a tip. So. Phyllis, you asked how much is expected for the tips for the guides. Let me see. I have that information. One second. Let me pull up my little. You would think I would know all this, but it changes every now and then. Let's see here. Okay, so for a tour director, we recommend $4 to $5 per day per person. For your bus driver, $3 to $4 per day, and then your local city guides, $1 to $2 per tour. So I hope that information helps. Again, if you do register for a tour, we would send you some information about that. Let's see, size suitcase. What size not to bring? Okay, so Beth, I would normally bring my large roller bag. There are standards, so you don't want to go above, I believe it's 60 inches, 62 inches. And so that is length plus width plus height. So if you measure your suitcase and if it's over 62 inches, you might want to downsize. You also want to keep it below 50 pounds because you don't want to be stuck with the overweight fee. Um, Phyllis, you have pre-registered for Captivating. Yay! When will I hear more? We are actually getting that information ready to send out. The holiday a little crazy right now, but you could probably expect that in the mail maybe sometime next week. And if you don't hear anything from us, please give us a call. We'll be happy to let you know when that's coming for sure. But I'm pretty sure that's going out next week. So I hope I answered all those questions. So we did have some questions that came in on your registration form. So I wanted to just cover those really quickly. Um, how far in advance should I book? So I would say sooner rather than later. And the only reason I say that is airfare. So we have a set number of seats on a plane that's reserved for our tours. And once those seats are full, then we have to buy airfare, just whatever the going rate is. And so sometimes that's higher, sometimes it's a lot higher. And so the sooner you book, the sooner your airfare probably will be. And it's the same thing with cruises and independent travel too. The sooner you can book, it gives you more opportunity to plan ahead and work out all those little details. Somebody had a group of 19 that was interested in maybe an escorted tour or a customized group tour. So I would ask that you please give us a call. So I myself usually work with customized group tours for families, and then our owner, Brekke, also works with customized group tours. So if you could call and ask for one of us, we would be happy to discuss maybe the pros and cons of either joining an escorted tour or a customized group tour. Um, Phyllis, this kind of ties into your question, but can we extend our time in Oslo to visit family? Yes, you may certainly do that, and we would be glad to extend your stay. We would try to get you overnights in the hotels that you're already in, and then we can help you plan those arrangements. So, Phyllis, I hope that kind of answers your question too. We would be more than happy to work with you about visiting family while you're in Stockholm. So. We had somebody ask about how hard it is to drive in Norway. And luckily for us, the Norwegians do drive on the same side of the road as we do. So that's a good thing. That part is easy enough, but what most Americans might find challenging is the size of the roads in Norway. So, and the road signs. The road signs can be a little confusing. But as long as you do a little planning ahead and maybe review your road sign, um, there's some information online that you can look at. Then I think you will be okay driving in Norway. Physical requirements for escorted tours. Well, a typical day will have about 2 to 3 hours of walking, but it's broken up over the course of the day. So you might have 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there, things like that. Some stops you'll only have, like I said, a 5-minute walk. Um, but for those with mobility issues, you always have the choice of whether or not you wish to take part. How many people on a tour? I think I kind of covered that already. Um, if you have any food allergies or diet requests, we do have a place on our application form that you can list that, and then we'll notify, of course, the hotels and restaurants ahead of time so they can prepare your meal. All right, and so let me go back to the questions that are coming in. The last day to book. Ooh, Beth, we normally stop taking bookings a couple of months out just because by that time we have to release any space that we have had held with the hotels and with the airlines and things like that. So, like I said, sooner is better than later. But if you need to wait in order to coordinate things with your family or friends or whatnot, if you could get to us a couple months before the tour departs, we should be able to get you on board. And Dean, you asked, what is the exchange rate? Of course, it varies from time to time, but right now, Uh, let's see, Norwegian kroner to US dollar is about 8.22. So the euro is about a 1.1 exchange rate. And of course, each country has their own um, currency. So if you are looking for a specific currency, I could try to help you with that. Patty, you asked how many suitcases with Iceland Air. Normally, it's one large suitcase and one carry-on, unless you're flying in their economy premium or whatever it is they're calling it nowadays, or their business class, their Saga class, then I think you get a larger allowance. But typically we ask on our tours that you bring one large suitcase and one carry-on. That way we have plenty of room on the bus for everybody's stuff. Okay, have we got any other questions? I hope I didn't go too fast. I was trying to cover everything in an hour, and I know we've gone over a little bit, but I want to make sure and answer any of your questions that you have today so that that we can, try and help you out. Uh, oh, excuse me. Phyllis, yes. Yes. So, um, in Sweden, they take the US dollars and use the chip on your credit card almost everywhere. Um, yes, that is correct. So, I've actually had in Sweden where they take Norwegian kroner too. So, it kind of depends on where you're at. But I've not had any issues using my credit card in any of the Scandinavian countries. Just make sure that you have the chip in there and that you have notified your credit card company that you're leaving. Otherwise, they'll put a freeze on your credit card and then it won't be accepted anywhere. So, um, yeah, so I've not had really any issues using my credit cards in Scandinavia. The biggest thing for me would be the foreign transaction fee. So that would be something to check on so that you know maybe which credit card might charge you the less amount. So do we have any other questions? I'm here all afternoon. I can answer whatever you guys can throw at me, hopefully. So I will go ahead and flip over. Uh, we are offering some discounts on our tours right now, so I thought I would mention that. We do have $100 off per person on the following 2018 departures. So all three of our Splendor of Norway tours, Majestic Norway, Captivating Scandinavia, and Scenic and Historic. So if we do have some guaranteed departures as well. So if you wanted to pay by check in full, you could save $100 per person on Spectacular Norway, any of those departures, Best Norway, and Taste of Sweden and Norway. If you have a family of 4 or more, you could save $150 per person on Norway's Family Adventure. And if you have a group of 6 or more, we do offer special group discounts. So if you have family, friends, whatever that you want to take with you to Norway, and there's 6 of you, please give us a call and we'll be glad to offer you a discount on some of our tours. So, and before we head out, just thought I would throw our contact information up there one more time, just so in case you missed it or want to see it again. I will be sending a copy of this recording out to everybody. So if you want to review it again later, feel free. And then last but not least, I'll leave you looking out over the Ireland Fjord. And this is actually the Trondheim Hotel right here. So for those of you that are joining us this summer and will be staying with us in Flum, if we're staying at the Trondheim Hotel, that's where you'll be. So all right, if we don't have any other questions, thank you all so much for taking time out of your day. I know leading up into a holiday, it seems like everybody's trying to cram about 2 weeks worth of work into 2 days or 3 days. So I do appreciate you taking the time to join us. We hope to see you in Scandinavia this summer. And if you do have any other questions, please give us a call or send us an email. Even if you just want to chit chat, we are fine with that. So I do appreciate it again, and I hope you all have a wonderful and a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much.